Welcome viewers in my presentations. Today's topic is Bloom's revised taxonomy. If you compare this Bloom's taxonomy and Bloom's revised taxonomy, actually this was revised by some of the students of Professor Bloom. Lower level of cognitive domain, it's some names are given, okay. But in these lectures we will be covering these topics. What are the subtopics of knowledge level in cognitive domain? In knowledge level, there are basically 4 type of knowledges are given. First one is factual knowledge, which is basic elements students must know to be acquainted with the discipline or solve problems in it. Another is conceptual knowledge, the interrelationships among the basic elements within a structure that enable them to function together. That means the formation of function keeping the factual knowledge as a variables. Procedural knowledge, as far as name is concerned, how to do something, methods of inquiry and criteria for using skills, algorithms, techniques and methods. Metacognitive knowledge, knowledge of condition in general as well as awareness and knowledge of one's own cognition. In these lectures, we will take a case study on, say a teacher is trying to teach integral calculus. What are the factual knowledge is required, what are the conceptual knowledge is required, what are the procedural knowledge required and what are the metacognitive knowledge is required. We will talk about this. In factual knowledge, if I want to represent this in schematic diagram, this can be knowledge of case study on integral calculus. Say I want to teach integral calculus. What are the knowledge of specific verbal and non-verbal labels and symbols? What are the symbols used in teaching integral calculus? This can be a factual knowledge, this can be a factual knowledge, this can be a factual knowledge. As for example, this can be integration, this can be anti-differentiation, this can be symbols and so on. All these are basically on factual knowledge, okay. This can be factual knowledge. This can be history of development of integral calculus, say this can be say I can write knowledge of events, location, people, dates, in which year it was introduced by, say, as for example this integral calculus, it was introduced by Newton's and Leibniz, in which year it is. So this is basically history of calculus, which makes students more attentive. History of calculus, say it can be in relation to history of calculus, in relation to integral, history of calculus relation to integral. Okay. Now it can be also different realistic complex problems, such as, say, in the sense that if I want to calculate area of a very irregular shape, so we must use integral calculus. So different realistic problems, right? Or it can be knowledge of sources, it can be knowledge of sources. So can be further subdivided, it can be further data presented in integral problems. How the data is collected, it can be a calculus textbooks, can be internet links, and so on. So all these are basically the factual knowledge of integral calculus, which is the most introductory in nature. Then I come to second part of knowledge domain, which is called conceptual knowledge. It is very important in case of a conceptual knowledge. So it is basically interrelations of different types of knowledges. If I represented it in a schematic diagrams, I can write down, say, knowledge of specific categories, knowledge of specific divisions, and so on, divisions and arrangements that are used in the subject matter. So this can be knowledge of classifying integrals based on certain criteria, or that means, as for example, definite or independent integrals, This can be knowledge of classification of integrals, or this can be knowledge of different methods for finding areas. That means it may be with respect to x or y. This can be knowledge of this one, or this can be, so this one type, and the third type may be knowledge of different methods in findings volume of a particular area. It may be with respect to x or y. So, in this lecture I have tried to cover some of the components in teaching integral calculus. I have covered the factual knowledge components and the conceptual knowledge components. In the next class, I will try to cover procedural knowledge components and the metacognitive knowledge components. Of course, on the same topics, that means when I teach integral calculus, what are the procedural and metacognitive knowledge components should be taken care of for better teachings. Till then, thank you very much.